It's accurate to describe Matthew O'Toole as a friend of yours and as someone who supported your campaign for leadership of Fine Gael, is it?
A friend, yes, not a close friend. Somebody who I think somebody who did turn up at an event, I think one, where I was during the time when I was running for leader of Fine Gael, but also somebody who since then organised a rally outside the Dáil on Mulder Street.
That's fine, thanks.
Which many of you attended.
That's fine.
Where he said,
Taoiseach,
you don't hear it. You don't hear it.
That's fine.
Where he said Fine Gael was responsible for destroying general practice and the health service.
That's fine. I'll move on to the next question. The next question is it your contention that the fact that Matthew O'Toole was your friend and was your political supporter was purely incidental? It was simply a coincidence that he got this document from you, that no matter who the president of the NEGP was, you would have given him this document in this way?
Okay, well, first of all, he was very definitely not a political supporter at that time. Some people have brought to attention the letter from the NAGP to members of my party, very clearly threatening to campaign against us. Many of you were at the rally which he would have organised on Mulder Street, where he told everyone that Fine Gael was responsible for destroying the health service. So a political supporter at that point, he certainly was not. Far from it.
Could you answer the question, please, Taoiseach? Is it purely a coincidence that this friend and political supporter of yours received the document, or no matter who was president of NAGP, would they have got it? Yes or no will do.
The president of the NAGP would have got it. I have lots of friends who are GPs. They didn't get it. He didn't get it because he was a friend of mine. He got it because he was president of the NAGP.
So if he got it in his position as president of the NAGP, why did you send it to his home address as opposed to send it to the office of the president of the NAGP?
Essentially because, as I explained earlier, I wanted to share it with them on a confidential basis. I wanted him to see that there was nothing in the deal that hadn't been publicly announced, nothing of substance anyway that hadn't been publicly announced. There was nothing in it worth opposing, nothing in it worth agitating against, that this was a good agreement, good for GPs, good for general practice, good for the public, good for patients, and one that he shouldn't be opposing. Where I erred was that because he was a friend of mine, I did it in this way, a sort of shortcut way. I shouldn't have done that. I should have done it more formally, and I totally accept that.
So, and when you talk about doing it more formally, earlier on you mentioned that the way to do that would have been to get him in and to go through it line by line over the course of 2 hours or so. It's your contention that you would have been able to do that without the permission of the IMO? That even though you were in the final stages of finalising an agreement with the IMO, it was completely open to you to give it to the leader of a rival organisation and a personal friend? That's your contention?
As the Cabinet memo says, on the 9th of April, the engagement with the IMO had concluded. There were some minor changes subsequently of no major significance. We didn't have to go back to Cabinet on them. The agreement had already been press released, the salient, commercially sensitive financial details all put out there in the public domain on the 4th of May, the launch by the HSE on the 6th of May, the event attended by me and Minister Harris on the 6th of April, So all of this was done before I shared the document.
So you didn't need to have the permission of the IMO to share it with someone else? That wasn't a mistake?
Sorry, what's the question?
You didn't need the permission of the IMO to share it with somebody else, with the leader of a rival organisation. You're not saying that's the mistake you made?
No, I think what I could have done is brought him in for a formal briefing and gone through the contents of the document. I think that would have been the right way to do it.
But you think it would have been perfectly okay to bring him in, to go through the contents of the document without the permission of the IMO? You didn't think that that would have been breaking any confidence with the IMO?
What I was doing, as I said earlier, was sharing this on a confidential basis. What the IMO wanted at that time was to go around the country, to do their own meetings, to share it with their members, to do it in that way. And I totally respect that that's the way they wanted to do it.
Do you understand why Matthew O'Toole, in a conversation with Jay Bowes, using, unfortunately, very vulgar and inappropriate language, said in relation to you that he'd be, unfortunately, raped if the IMO lads knew he was giving me shit, meaning material like this, i.e. you'd be in trouble with the IMO if they knew that you were given this material? Is that accurate, that you would have been in trouble if they knew?
Again, Deputy, that's a conversation between two other people. It's very difficult for me to comment on it.
I asked you, is it accurate that you'd be in trouble if the IMO knew you were given this material?
I don't know about trouble, but certainly I think they would have been annoyed. I've seen a comment from one person who's a former president who expressed displeasure at it. I've also seen comments from other members of the IMO, including council members, who have said that this is a non-story, and also seen comments from other people who are council members saying that the NAGP were an amateur organisation, that they thought this was such a big deal when this was being provided to GPs all around the country at meetings, at telephone calls, being talked about in deep detail at the press.
Do you accept that the conversations that have emerged from the inner sanctum of the NAGP suggests that, regardless of your story now, they certainly didn't think that they got it in some official capacity? One person wrote, commenting to Matthew, "Where did you rob it? Did anyone see you? Did you make a clean getaway, Matt?" They didn't perceive that they had it in any professional capacity, did they?
Deputy, they didn't get it in official capacity. I provided it to him on a confidential basis in the way that I did for the reasons that I did.
But the point is, you didn't. You provided it to your friend and political supporter, Matthew O'Toole. Do you see how Matthew O'Toole received a benefit, received an advantage as a result of having that confidential document? Because now he's the person within the NAGP inner sanctum who has access to these documents, who has the kind of insider relationship that he can boast about, which you suggest he's exaggerating, but he's the guy who got the document from you, so there's a question mark over whether he's exaggerating. But the key point, do you accept that he received an advantage as a result of you giving him the document?
No, I don't, Deputy, and I certainly didn't receive any advantage from it. Which
I didn't ask if you got an advantage.
Some people are alleging. He was not a political supporter of mine, certainly not at that time. I already pointed out the fact that many of you attended a demonstration he organised outside the Dáil, which was very critical of the government and the at the time. I gave it to him because he was president of the NAGP. When you're the president of the organisation, I don't know what advantage that confers on you.
It means you get re-elected potentially.
You're already the most senior officer in that organisation.
Then you could wonder why you do any politics, Leo, or why you did as Taoiseach. As you know, the Village magazine described you as a lawbreaker. Today on their website, an article says bluntly, he has committed a crime. Your statement in response accepted the core factual claim that our article made, while simultaneously describing it as, quote, grossly defamatory. Do you intend to sue the Village magazine?
Thanks, Deputy. I have legal advice on this, very strong legal advice, that the front page is defamatory, that large content within the article is defamatory, particularly in relation to the suggestion of criminality. If you read the article, their claim that my benefit from this, the benefit that I got from this, was that Dr. O'Toole wrote nice tweets about me a year later. Like, not only is that defamatory, it's also laughable. I received no benefit from this in any way. The corruption legislation is very clear.
Are you going to sue the Village magazine?
I have advice on that. I haven't decided yet. They appear to be goading me, wanting me to do so, which gives me some degree of suspicion, quite frankly. What I am told is that it is a fringe publication, that it is largely self-funded, has no editorial board, doesn't have a legal team, and that suing them would be like suing somebody on Twitter. But I have to decide that.
I think people can draw their own conclusions. If you do not sue a magazine which has publicly and now repeatedly described you as a lawbreaker and as having committed a crime. Do you believe, as you stated in your statement on Saturday, that the Official Secrets Act does not apply to you?
But Deputy, on the first point, I'm not somebody who goes around suing the media at all. It's not the way I operate. I know lots of people do, and some people in this House have. It's not been generally my modus operandi. What I seek usually is a right of reply. If you don't get a right reply, then there's the option of going to the Press Ombudsman. So there are many other options than tying yourself up in the High Court for 3 years at considerable cost, and it's not something that I would do.
The Official Secrets Act.
Lightly. On the Official Secrets Act, there are two aspects to this that are of significance. One, that the ambit of the Act is limited to persons holding public office, which is a term defined by Section 2 of the Act, and the definition of public access expressly excludes members of either House of the Oireachtas. In addition to that, the Official Secrets Act makes it clear that the person who is authorised to release official information are ministers. That is one of the powers ministers have, is the power to authorise the release of official information. And if the Taoiseach doesn't have the power to authorise the release of official information, I don't quite know who does. But I don't think anyone honestly believes that this was some sort of official or state secret. That's
the Donald Trump offence, that basically you're entitled to do what you like because you're the Taoiseach. Yeah, no problem. It's not just as simple as optics. Perceptions do matter, and when it comes to a contract of this size, importance and cost, it has to be seen to be all above board as well. He left himself open to the perception of a conflict of interest, the perception that someone was given an inside track. Your words, Taoiseach, about Denis Naughton. Do you accept that your actions have left it open to the perception that someone was given an inside track? That people have seen behind the curtain of establishment politics, that it functions on the basis of a series of golden circles of insiders looking after insiders. Matthew O'Toole supported your campaign to be leader of Fine Gael. In return, he gets access to a confidential document that he shouldn't have. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Political patronage amounting to corruption. The Taoiseach's leaking was clearly in breach of point 10 of the Code of Conduct for TDs. It was clearly in breach of section 1.5 of the Code of Conduct for office holders. It was also an offence under the Corruption Offences Act. I don't see how it's tenable for you to continue. I yield.